Good afternoon, I'm Emily Haas and welcome to Seattle Teen Ferry News. Today we will be celebrating our 113th anniversary. But before we give you the latest news on Washington State Ferries, we thought we'd take a little trip back in time to 1889, when the Virginia 5 was built and started it all. The Virginia 5 wasn't the only ferry filling the waters in 1889. Before large companies developed, there were many little companies with small steamships. They were also known as the Mosquito Fleet. Let's go to Bailey Barrett to see how the ferry system has grown from there.
Thanks, Emily. As you can see, in the 1920s, all these companies split into two sole companies, the Puget Sound Navigation Company and the Kitsap County Transportation Company. But in 1935, Kitsap County's workers put on a pretty convincing strike as it pushed Kitsap County out of business, leaving PSNC in sole control. That didn't last very long. In the 1940s, PSNC requested a fare increase, which was denied. So the PSNC tied up their boats and halted ferry services. What you may not know living in the Highlands is that everyday life on the islands revolves around the ferry system. How would they get to their jobs? How would they get to the city? They couldn't. So in 1951, the PSNC sold all of their ferries and terminals to a newly created Washington Toll Bridge Authority for around $5 million. But the ferries were never supposed to last forever. They were supposed to be temporary for a network of bridges to come. But could you imagine how many bridges that would take? So in 1959, the bridge plans were rejected, and the State Highway Commission and Washington Toll Bridge Authority combined to make WSDOT, Washington State Department of Transportation. And they still rely on WSDOT today. Back to you, Emily.
Thanks, Bailey. Ever wonder what it takes to become a ferry captain? Well, a lot more than you think. To start off the process, you have to be approved by the Coast Guard. This means background check, fingerprints, the whole package, from a 5-substance drug test and a physical exam to whether or not you have CPR certification. But surprisingly enough, you'll never have to prove you can drive a boat, but you will have to pass a 120-question test. All this and you're ready to go. Land the job and you'll be making $120 to $200K every year. But I know someone who can tell us a little more about that. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ferry. Hello, I'm the Ferry. I'm so glad to be here. You know how I got here? I rode the Tacoma Jumbo Ferry. It's 460 feet long, and standing on its end, that's only 145 feet shorter than the Space Needle. And size does matter when it comes to speed and when it comes to capacity. At first, in 1953, their boats could only hold 100 cars and 1,000 people. But then later in 1967, it grew to 160 cars and 2,000 people. Then finally, in 1973, it grew to 206 cars and 2,500 people. The Washington State Ferry system is seriously huge. With 10 routes, 20 terminals, over 1 million cars, 26 million people, and 19.7 million gallons of fuel every year. It's the largest ferry system in the entire United States of America, and possibly in the world. But with 21 huge ferries, there comes responsibility. Like, are there any accidents? Do they stay super safe? Did anybody die? Nope. But a baby orca whale did once. He got chopped up in the propellers. But what if someone gets seasick or pees their pants? Who cleans it up? Well, yeah, the workers do. And they used to get paid extra for it, hazard pay. But now I don't think they do anymore. It happens way too much. Well, that's all I got. Thanks for listening. Washington State ferries are not only for commercial uses, but also attract tourists with the outstanding scenery. Even weddings have been held on Puget Sound ferries. Want to learn more? Check out WSDOT's official website at wasdot.wa.gov. Thanks for listening.